So Rodrigo Coutinho from OutSystems joins us today. Welcome, Rodrigo,
Thank
to
you.
our little studio here at TechEx Europe. I always ask this first, and it's a bit off the cuff. Well, I normally say, tell me your life story and your career path, but you've just been telling me you started OutSystems 24 years ago.
Correct.
Is that right? So you were what, 7 years old when you started it? How old were you when you...
I was 24 years old, I believe. So yeah, it was very early in my career. I did have a couple of years experience at another company before I joined OutSystems. Actually, my first working assignment was in a company that was owned by Paulo Rosado, then the founder and CEO of OutSystems. So that's how we met. So we worked together on that company for about a year. Then that company got acquired. And we still spent some time in Altitude Software. That was the company that acquired us. And then I think it was about after a year of that, Paulo Rosado had this idea to create a new company, and here we are.
And the rest is history, as they say. So, Rodrigo's been, were you on a panel? Were you chairing the panel this morning?
I was part of a panel, yes, about AI.
And the title of the panel was, "Are we ready for autonomous enterprises?" Discuss. I'm going to give you a preconception, a misconception about autonomous enterprises. Okay. And I want to know if it's a common one. And if this isn't the most common misconception, what is? I would say an autonomous enterprise is one where you employ fewer people because they can achieve the same amount of work using autonomous systems in the background. That would be my route one description. Is that wrong?
I think that's how a lot of people see it. I see it in another way, in the sense that I think there's a lot of expectations right now that AI will replace every human and every job role. And I don't agree with that. I think AI is definitely a technology that will augment humans, but it will not replace them. So I would say that's like one of the biggest misconceptions about autonomous enterprises, is that you will not need people anymore to do the job. We believe that the main goal and the thing organizations should strive for is to use AI as a way to make people more efficient, so that they have better work, because right now there are a lot of people doing very repetitive work, and overall turning them more productive, not in the sense that you want to cut people, but in the sense that you want to optimize and make the enterprise more efficient and more productive. So I would say that's one of the major misconceptions. The other one is this notion that because it's going to be an autonomous enterprise with autonomous agents, that there is no human oversight. And definitely that's something that's always going to be needed, right? This idea that AI can do decisions on their own, it might be true for very simple things and low risk things that have no true impact. But whenever you have any worth having decision, strategical decision, life-changing decision, either for your company or for the people you are serving, you definitely need humans there in the loop to be part of that.
And let's talk about risks. If we give autonomous agents or autonomous AI, genetic AI, if we give those, if you like, bodies of code, the power to change things, send digital signals, make decisions.
Yeah.
What are the risks if you don't give them that human oversight that you mentioned?
Well, I think the first thing you need to do when you are trying to do something like that is actually to understand that whatever happens, you cannot blame AI. So AI is not accountable, and we have a lot of that, those conversations, because we are treating AI almost as a person and as a sentient being, and it's not. So AI is not accountable. So you need to have the proper structure of accountability to make sure that when something happens, you understand exactly what happened and you can react. And this is not going to be, there's not a recipe. It will really depend on the case. So it will require that. The other thing I think it's a risk is for the decisions to be good, the data going in needs to be good also.
Yeah.
And humans are amazing at making decisions with very little information. We have our guts, right? That we like to use a lot. AI is not that good. And so you need to be careful with the data that you give AI. Make sure it's not incomplete and it's not wrong. It's not biased. There's also a lot of problems with biases. And so that's another way of reducing risk, making sure you have that.
Is this a problem that we've had, do you think, with software development? Because we think of AI like another software product, in that we write some code or use perhaps a low-code system to write our code.
Mm-hmm.
We write some code, we give it access to data, and it spits out an answer. Now, what you're saying is that the code or the thought, the oversight, the work needs to start earlier in that process. It needs to look at the data first.
Correct.
So get the data right, then you can start thinking about constructing your application using traditional code, using low code, whatever. And then what I've heard a lot on the show floor is when the results come out, you still need to work at it. So whereas before writing software was one step, now it's step 0, step 1, and step 2. And it's almost a longer process. Mm-hmm. Is that something that's...
I would put it a little different in the sense that, so the big difference between AI and developing software is before you establish a very strict set of rules and you got an input and then you define the rules.
Yeah.
And then an output comes out. So there might be mistakes in implementing these rules. Of course, there are bugs and we've heard of a bunch of them, but it was a human doing that. And right now it's a bit different. What we do is we take a bunch of data and we tell AI, look at this data. These are the outputs I'm expecting. Now you come out with whatever way to transform these inputs in outputs. And so there's a bit of a black box there. And so I think that's the main difference, is that while before the developers were creating the rules and implementing the rules, now they need to implement the guardrails to make sure the rules are followed.
Yeah.
So if I want to make sure that, a very simple example, that an AI does never sell a product from a competitor, and this is a real case where a brand had a chatbot recommending vehicles from another competitor, you need, as a developer, to think about, okay, what do I want AI to do? What must not do it never, and then put those guardrails. So that's how the role of the developer is shifting in one way, is to think more about rules rather than how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was saying it's a broader remit. You're saying it's a different remit, perhaps, or somewhere in between. Let's talk about those guardrails. Obviously, we have to put guardrails up for compliance to make sure that medical data or intellectual property isn't released to customer-facing application, so on and so forth. What are those guardrails internally that are important to set up if you're developing an application and it's going to use AI? To you, what are those guardrails?
Yeah, so I think the first step is to have a good control on everything that you are using regarding AI. And of course, this is something that we do in OutSystems. We allow it to centrally configure all of these things so that you are aware of what's being used and where it's being used. So this is like step 0. And I know it sounds obvious, but if nowadays you go to any enterprise and ask what systems are you using, what versions and so on, nobody knows. It's really fascinating that we are in this state of affairs. And so that's the first guardrail, is for you to know exactly what are the things that you are using, because that then enables you first to solve the problems very fast if there is an issue with a version or something like that. But also because the controls you put in place depend on the models you're using and the applications you're using. And then of course is this notion that, again, AI is learning with the inputs and outputs, so you also need to have someone validate what's coming out. Yeah. And that can be a human, it can be another agent. There are several ways to do this. Right now, evals are keyword of the day, you know, so we have all of this, but you do need to put them in place and have those rules established. And this is like the basics that you need to do in order to have things work.
Okay. OutSystems is a low-code platform. I first heard of OutSystems, I think, 7 or 8 years ago, so well into it. But let's say then I'm a company, I want to make a new application. I've heard about AI, and in fact, I've talked about it to experts and consultants, and we think there's a use case for using AI in this application. How can low code help me go from a brilliant idea through to a production application that is successfully and safely delivering an AI-powered result?
Okay, that's a great question.
It's probably a very long answer.
I was thinking how I can summarize that, but that's a great question because we can use all the steps, and I think that's the big difference with these with local platforms and building AI agents with them is that everything is connected. So instead of having one thing for the UI, another thing for the database, another for the agents, everything is connected, and that's very important if you want to have a healthy application. And so the way you do it with OutSystems essentially is we have something. A technology that allows you to prompt the application that you want to build. So you either type in your requirements or you put in a requirement document. And once you do that, we will generate the application for you. And this is, of course, the first version of the application because humans are not great at doing requirements, as every computer scientist knows, right? Because they are always changing their minds. And sometimes they need to see it to understand what they want. So we also use AI to help you reshape the application. So it's very easy for you if you have a change in requirements, because we have the UI, the business logic, the database all together. You can just change in a single place and everything gets updated automatically. Now, the next thing is the business is going to put AI, like you mentioned, they have this use case. And so we have Agent Workbench, which is our way to create AI agents that you can use in applications. We made it really easy for you to do all the data grounding, to do the historical information, to do function calling from agents. This is all in low code, so it's all visual. So you can very quickly create an agent to suit your use case. And now the cool thing is this is all connected. You have an application, you click one button, it is published and ready to test. And once you have that, also, again, we have with the platform, it's very easy to bring things to production. We have the ODC portal where you just click a couple of buttons and this application is in production. And so you had all of these stages from thinking about the app, iterating, putting an agent, staging. It's all very quickly and all through the same platform.
And I'm reminded of when Google or Apple advertise phone technology, and they show an app downloading, and then at the bottom, in tiny letters, it usually says timescales accelerated, you know, because the download's really fast. Are we talking, I mean, I know it's really difficult to say, Rodrigo, but with low code, are we talking a matter of days, or really should we still be thinking in terms of months to get an application up and running that's built with low code, admittedly, but uses AI? Should we really be thinking slightly longer term than the most optimistic of us, I think?
As you mentioned, it obviously depends a lot on the use case. I wouldn't say months, I would say weeks. In the sense that, of course, you can have something working in days. So it's something that you want to have the first prototype, you can have it even, I'm going to risk and say hours because I've seen it done, but it's just a first version, very raw, just to show. But then there's obviously all the details of integrating with enterprise systems. And by the way, some of the waiting is not about coding. It's about you request access to SAP and then it takes them 3 days to give you the access. So there's all of that. And that's why I say you can have a very first version running very quickly and then you go through all the details. But in a matter of weeks, you can have something running that's actually useful for the business using AI capabilities to make it more productive.
Okay. And this is the difficult question, which I always leave to the end. I need you to look into the future. I need you to think 5 years in the future. Do you see autonomous agents doing more in the average enterprise? And do you see those agents being built with low code? Obviously, you'd like them all to be built using more product.
Correct.
But let's use that as a kind of design template, if you like. Do you see more agents running in enterprise IT stacks? And do you see a lot more of those agents being built using low code type technology? Like, for instance, large language model. Build me an app that does X, Y, and Z. An app that starts with that spoken or simple written description.
No, definitely. So, and by the way, 5 ways is a way too long time, but so let's look into a closer future. And I do believe
I just say that is a complete topic. Right there. But no, fair enough, Karen.
Because I just, my reasoning is, I think in the next 5 years, there will be another technological shift. So it's almost impossible to I wish I could guess. But with the technology we have right now, I think the evolution will be around having more agents, as you mentioned, collaborating with each other to make enterprises, whatever their business is, way more effective. Now, I think this is both an opportunity and a challenge, obviously. And there's a big part of this that will happen at the LLM level, and the agents will work together and so on. But I also believe there is a strong part that's about orchestration, and not everything is solved by AI. So I think that's another one of the things we are learning, is that people think AI is going to solve all the problems. It will not. Not everything will be solved by AI. And some things still need to be deterministic. We need to know what will happen for sure. And so I think the great opportunity is for local platforms to be used as orchestrators of all of these agents that are doing their stuff and executing actions and all of that. And then you have a local platform where, in a very easy and visual way, you can understand exactly what that flow means in terms of what will happen when an agent does something. And of course, even to put human in the loop. So there are always things that the human needs to go and give its validation and so on. So I think it will be very interesting to see agents becoming ever more reliant, faster, and doing more things. I think it will be super interesting to organize all of this using local platforms, and also see how the change of work, how the nature of work changes as these things happen.
Yeah, I think I agree to a certain extent. I think that often the expectation is that, I don't know, we'll automate workflows. We'll build applications that automate and work between SAP and my finance package in HR, and then we will have finished. But of course, even at a year, definitely 3, and without question, 5 years, things will be so different and so evolved. It's a terrible question to ask you. What's the future going to be like in 5 years? Because things they're just not static, are they? Something that
No, I think it's the evolution is going to be so strong, and I'm very excited about it. I'm an optimistic, so I truly believe these things can improve our lives and bring us to places.
And of course, if you didn't believe it, 24 years later, you'd be doing
that would be
else.
Strange. Exactly. Yes.
All right, that's great. So, Rodrigo, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Real pleasure. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Yes, it was great. Thank you so much for the invitation.